everyone. Welcome to Living with Autism by Michael Lettman. I would like to say, welcome back, Frank Laskowitz.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back on the channel, Michael. And to all Michael's fans and subscribers, it's a pleasure to be back.
I thought I'd check up on your status as an NYU student, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, I really appreciate that, Michael. Definitely. I know our last video had a lot of views, a lot of likes, and, if it can help other, future students or current students, then definitely.
And I have to admit, your debut on my channel, many of my viewers liked you.
That's good. I'm really glad to hear that.
Let's get started with your questions. How and when did you get into NYU Silver?
Well, how was I graduated, I was in 2019 spring semester of Kingsborough College. I was getting ready to, look for social work programs because Kingsborough is just a 2-year community college. And I found out that NYU has a social work program, but not only that, but they also have a program called CC Top, which is Community College Transfer Opportunity Program, which is basically for like the local community colleges in the New York State area. They have a list on their website of which, community colleges, but basically you apply to NYU, you apply to the program. If you get accepted, they pay for 50% of your tuition, which obviously helps. So if you're a student right now watching this, coming from Kingsborough, BMCC, Hostos, or one of the other colleges that qualifies, and you're thinking of going to NYU, definitely check out CC Top. It was great. And then, I applied for the fall of 2019, but my application, I believe I put it in January 2019. So definitely you want to be on this application right away.
Your next question, of course, what NYU Silver classes have you taken for the undergraduate program?
Well, I've taken a lot of the requirement classes for one. Right now I'm a senior. This is my last semester. And so I started my junior year, fall 2019, then spring, right? And then again, the fall 2020, and now spring 2021. This is my last semester. So in that, I've taken all the requirement classes like, DROP, human behavior, agencies, welfare. You can find them on the NYU website. But what I really want to talk about here, I guess, is the electives, because you can't find much information about electives. I mean, I've done my research. There's not a lot on YouTube or the internet that talks about all the electives because social work, NYU Silver has a lot. So one of them I taken was film, literature, and mental health, love and relationships, war on drugs, social deviance and taboos, mindfulness, and right now this semester I'm taking one called Radical Insight, Global Social Justice, and Nonviolent Peacemaking.
You've been busy. Your next question is, can you explain to me what each class was about?
Yeah. So, with NYU Silver, they have their main requirement classes that you have to take. But then there's the electives, which I think I would like to talk about because there's generally no information. So if you're a current student or you're, someone that just got accepted to NYU, congratulations, and you're curious about these electives, right? There's very little information on YouTube or in the internet about these classes, So one of the electives I took is called Film, Literature, and Mental Health. And that is a class where you basically, you read some text, but you mainly, you watch movies that show and depict all these diagnoses, that you would find in the DSM. And by watching it, it's really, I guess, easier to see firsthand, what they look like. Just throwing an example, like PTSD, some people, they don't know what that looks like, or it's the first time they're hearing it. Well, you get, experience by watching the movies and stuff. And it's a really, really great class taught by a great professor. Another one is called Love and Relationships, which is extremely, really good class. I mean, I'm 27 now. I've been with my wife for 10 years, and I wish I had this class maybe when I was in high school, because a lot of the things she talked about or she spoke about in class, I had to experience like firsthand. Just basically, it's a class about, how to love, right? What is love? Like, what is good love versus bad love, right? How to basically make a good relationship and stuff like that. And it's a great class, but like I said, a lot of these things I had to experience firsthand through trial and error. Like, I should never do this. You shouldn't do this in a relationship. If somebody does this, da da da, it's bad. Um, and she really, really, definitely knew like everything. It was crazy. Great class. Another class is like war on drugs, which is a class that kind of like talks about and shows you about like just the whole drug system and how there's a lot of like injustice happening right now with drugs, and it's a great class, and you really really learn a lot. And it's not just talking about drugs, but it's like the people it affects, right? A little bit of history and how it's basically rooted in like America and the jail systems. And it's definitely, I would recommend taking it. The professor is awesome as well. I mean, all the professors I'm going to say are awesome. Social Deviance and Taboos was another one. That class specifically, I love that class because it's really talking about anything that's like you would consider taboo, right? Like, this is different. Like, for example, just throwing out an example, right? Maybe in America, right? We kind of like, when you look at somebody in the eyes, it's considered a little bit disrespectful, right? And stuff like that. Or if you're not looking at them in like, other countries, you're being respectful. So it's just like that. And they're talking about a whole different bunch of topics. It was really, really helpful. And not only did I learn from the class, but I learned from my peers. There's a specific time where I didn't understand something. And because a student lived that experience, they were able to help me really understand it. So I'm very grateful for that because it changed my world. Another one is mindfulness, which I love. I think by far my favorite class. So if you're a current student and you're wondering about mindfulness, definitely take it. It's basically a big class on like meditation techniques and just being mindful. Overall, great experience. And then right now, currently in my last semester, I'm taking Radical Insight, Global Social Justice, and Nonviolent Peacemaking, which basically is right there, nonviolent peacemaking. And it's already a great class. Like, I've only been to it a couple times now, and I love it. It's really really just, it opens up your perspective and hearing all these different stories. One thing I do want to say really quick though is just sometimes some of these electives are only offered maybe like the fall or the spring. So like, I know mindfulness, I mean, it could change maybe next year, 2 years from now, whenever you're watching this video, I guess. But it was only available in the fall. So if you can, take it. Definitely. Like I said, I urge you to do your own research on these electives, but I could not find them anywhere else. So I hope that, by answering these questions, it helps you a little bit.
Your next question is, if you could pick one or two classes, which has been your favorite social work class so far, and why?
That's a good question. It's very tricky though. So I guess you could say I'll answer this two ways. One is the professor who teaches it, right, is the whole difference, right? You get a professor that's just alive and teaching that class, you're gonna love it, right? If you get a professor that's boring, there's that, right? You might have a different experience with this class. So I guess I could say is mindfulness, right? Mindfulness, I loved it, but it was also because of the professor who taught it. Definitely one of my top favorites. Like, I really, really love that class. Then there was also another class, agencies, social work agencies, and I love that one too. But it was probably because of the professor who taught it. It was amazing. But yeah, I'd have to say like those two. But I also really love drop. So NYU Silver is big for their new drop, which stands for diversity, racism, oppression, and privilege. And that class, professor, not professor, I think overall it was an amazing, amazing class. So yeah.
Your next question is, how has your experience been with classmates and making friends?
Oh yeah, so definitely if you're thinking about coming to NYU, and I urge anybody that's thinking about NYU, if you're watching this, do your research, right? Because I know there's a lot of social work programs out there, different colleges. Do your research, right? If you like diverse populations and backgrounds, then yeah, based on my experience, NYU has it. Like, they got somebody from pretty much everywhere. I mean, some of my classes, I had people from, Abu Dhabi, which was awesome. And, based on my research, obviously like Google, Yahoo Answers, all these things, right? Some of the other colleges were basically like one population of people. And I would read that sometimes a person felt like, an outsider. I guess you'd like just imagine if I was like the only Spanish person in a class like that. So, definitely if you're thinking about NYU, right? I consider you, do the research yourself and figure out like if this is what you want, because making friends at NYU Silver, everyone there is really, really nice. And, somehow I'm always asking for help. So if you're a person who has helped me and you're watching this, thank you. You definitely know who you are, because I always make sure to respond to emails or whatever. Like, thank you. I won't forget it. So yeah, thanks to anybody that's ever helped me. But yeah, no, making friends is pretty easy. I've never really felt any judgment. I mean, again, this is just my experience. I can't talk for everybody, but for me personally, I've never had any problems. And yeah, I loved it.
Continuing with your next question. Any tips for people who want to apply or have already been accepted into the NYU Silver program?
Oh yeah, for sure. A big emphasis on just do your research, right? Professors, right? If you're looking for something with diversity and inclusion, right? I'm not gonna lie, NYU Silver is doing pretty good on that. Like, I know in the news you might find things that are like, oh wow, ugh. But if you look up other colleges, right, do the same thing, right? See like how much of that population is diverse in regards to professors, right? Um, Students, faculty, all this stuff. So yeah, so some tips, right, for who want to apply. Talk about your experience. I guess if in regards to like the application, talk about your experience, right? Yes, having a good GPA and grades helps out a lot. We all know that. But if you look up, different websites or whatever forums, it's really all about the experience. Like based on me, I was not really crazy smart in high school. I transferred from a community college, right, with a high GPA, yeah, but it's all about experience. They really just want people who have, you know, good heart on their shoulders, good head on their shoulders. They want to do good in the world, and they're all about like this, inclusion and everything. And I think they're doing a really good job at that, honestly. I really do, compared to maybe other colleges that might not be doing such a good job on that. And again, right, just research it. It's there. And for the people who have been accepted into NYU Silver, definitely, I know one of the questions sometimes is people get a little stressed out about the workload. I think the professors at NYU Silver are very, very accommodating. They're super nice. You just got to talk to them, You just got to let them know, like, hey, I'm struggling a little bit. Can I get maybe a little bit more time? And yeah, but for the most part, I guess those are the tips, right? Do your research and just talk about your experiences if you're applying, and just have fun. Have fun with your classes and try to enjoy it.
A question that comes up a lot is, I got accepted into Hunter College and NYU. Which one should I attend for social work?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a really great question. I remember when I was applying to NYU Silver, that was something I also thought about too. Both have great social work programs. But again, if you're somebody, right, if you're currently watching this and you're from a community college on the list of maybe the CC top programs that are like the colleges that are accepted, take that into consideration too. If you're just a student or someone that happen to get accepted in both, right, do your research. Again, I'm not telling you guys which one to do. I'm not responsible for that, right? But do your research, right? It's up there. There's a lot of forums. And I know the big question is always NYU this or Columbia or whatever. But again, right, it's really just do your research and see which ones you really want. I can tell you right now, obviously, they're both great social work programs. I have a buddy who's at NYU Hunter, and I can probably tell you that the education isn't that much more different or less. Um, But one of the things that I found on my experience through researching is one of the biggest differences is that when it comes to NYU, is that one, obviously tuition is crazy high. So if you don't have like some kind of crazy scholarship or anything like that, one of the things to consider is like, and again, this is from what I've seen on research, on posts, forums, and I mean, I've spent a lot of hours researching, is that when you leave New York City or like maybe the surrounding area, NYU, people know, right? You can go anywhere and they'll be like, oh, I know NYU. You could go to Cali, you can go to Florida, you can go to Texas. I love NYU. I know it. You go there and you say, oh, I graduated from Hunter, they're going to look at you and be like, what's Hunter? Like, I never heard of it. And again, this is just from what I've seen, right? The posts I've read, and I urge you to do your own research. But if you plan on staying in New York City or New Jersey or maybe the Bronx, Brooklyn, whatever, I think Hunter is like elite. Hunter is definitely up there, maybe even a little bit better than NYU, to be honest, from what I've read. If you stay here, though, definitely and think about it, right? The tuition, just do your own research. I think, FAFSA and TAP alone, you will cover like Hunter's tuition. But if you do NYU, and you don't have enough scholarship, basically, even if you have to go halvesies, right? You're going to be paying that off for a long time. So like if you plan on staying in New York City, I would say Hunter. If you plan on maybe staying in New York City and then eventually moving away and you're okay with all that debt, then I would probably say NYU. And again, if this is just for your bachelor's, take that into consideration too, right? Maybe you could always go to Hunter, get your bachelor's, and then get your master's from NYU, something like that, so that way you don't have so much debt. You still get to say I went to Hunter and NYU, or you could do both, right? You could go to NYU for bachelor's and then go to Hunter for your master's. But again, do your research. But that's basically one of the biggest things I found out. Is just if you go outside of New York, people know NYU. They don't know Hunter. If you stay in New York, they know Hunter. Everyone knows Hunter. And just tuition. And the two programs themselves are both really, really amazing, honestly.
Here's your final question. What is learning like online? How have your NYU social work classes been?
Oh, so for me personally, I know a lot of people don't like it, and I'm only gonna speak for myself, but I like it. I love it. I mean, during my field placement, right? From my field placement to NYU, it was like an hour and a half, and it was just tiring going there. And then I'd have to take like a class in the evening, and then by the time I get home, even if my class ends at like 7:30, I don't get home till like 10 o'clock, just to be at my field placement at like 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. Do the same thing over again, get to a class that ends at like 7:30, get home at 10 o'clock. This is exhausting. So for me, I love NYU, like online learning. And my NYU social work classes have been great. The professors are awesome. The classes are very interactive. I personally learn best from like my peers, and I feel like I am learning. I learn a lot from my friends and their experiences. And, it's been good. Honestly, I like it because you can just hop in and hop off online learning and not.
Final statement. Frank, it sounds like you've been okay with your online learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. And again, right, if anybody's watching this, one of the three things I guess to take away from that is just do your research, right? If you're trying to apply to NYU, or if you're confused between NYU and Columbia or NYU and Hunter, whatever it is, again, right, just do your research and look up the things that matter to you most, right? Diversity, inclusion. I think NYU, without a doubt. I mean, Hunter is also really good with that too. Again, the programs itself, both every program is pretty much really, really good. Again, it's just tuition and where you're going to plan on living afterwards, I think, is one of the biggest tips I'd say.
Okay, Frank, shall we get back to a part 2 later?
Oh yeah, guys. If you guys wanted to see more about more, a little side note, I recently got accepted into the NYU's master program for advanced standing for the fall. So I guess I know there are some questions about that as well. So we can definitely do like a part 2 in the coming weeks, guys. Tell you a little bit about that.
Okay. Please stay tuned for more of Living with Autism by Michael Lettman. And let's not forget, please stay tuned for Frank Laskowitz.
All right, thanks everyone. Please don't forget to, give Michael a thumbs up or a like and subscribe if you want to see more.
That's all.